music stops. There we go. Good afternoon, or good morning still, actually. It's been a long morning already. My name is Brian Horsburgh. I'm from Dell Technologies. And as Hannah said, I've been in Dell Technologies for 20 years. I know I don't look that old just yet, but I do feel it in the morning. This session is really just going to be around giving a little bit of an insight into the trends in AI, but much more about giving you a sense of what ourselves are doing in Dell Technologies, giving you a kind of landscape of how we're utilising AI and the applications and the workloads and what improvements it's making. And we'll kind of touch on some of the predictions for 2025 as well. Now, everyone is on a journey. No one knows where the landscape of AI is going to end up. We absolutely understand that. This is still a fairly, well, AI has been around for decades, but generative AI has only been around for the last few years. And then what we're going to see is that transpire into agentic AI, and then we're going to see other variations as we go through. But again, I'll kind of give a sense of where they are. But this journey is going to be a long journey, and it's going to go, but it's going to go at pace. And I think the one thing I would probably start off by saying is, what is enterprise AI? And in true reflection, really what this is about, at the very heart of enterprise AI, it's how do you bend the curve of productivity for your organizations? And I'll go off piste ever so slightly. When I was listening to Joseph, who is like absolutely, full of passion and support for how they drive small businesses and scale up organizations. But when you look at the amount of time, and he mentioned it time and time again, it is hard work, it's exasperating, it can be really, take away from your personal life as much as anything else, and you need to be all in. The one kind of key factor that AI really brings to small businesses, it bends that curve of productivity. It can help you scale faster than ever before, and we'll kind of talk about some of those KPIs and return of investments as we go through. But ultimately, what you're really trying to think about is there's kind of three key factors that generative AI really brings to the table, particularly for small businesses. Is think about it as optimizing your productivity. As I said, it bends that curve. So just imagine that you've got this little nice superhero every single day, or an extra pair of hands that can go in and do those automated tasks, those repetitive tasks that come into your inbox or your applications every single day. And it's removing those tasks and those repetitive tasks to make them more autonomous, to give you back time, to make sure that you spend, and again, stealing some of Joseph this morning, to get back to what's important, which is customer engagement, driving productivity, making those sales, engaging with a support perspective. So optimizing that productivity really becomes critical and key in there. And then if you kind of think about some of the other pieces, like there is a lot of data out there at this moment in time, either within your own organization or how you engage in that data to bring that back in to give you insights. So just think about having AI as being your ultimate librarian even, to go and get that data, bring it back, make sure it's at your fingertips at any given time, And it's just absolutely critical. And then the other piece that you kind of think about from an AI perspective is the data insights. So think about it as a supercharged GPS. As you start up your new organization, you're going on a journey, a long journey. And what you want to kind of use those data insights and give you that early warning. Is there traffic ahead? Do you need to make that diversion? Do you need to think about looking at it in a different way? Do you need to make pit stops? Utilizing the information as much as possible to make that journey as enjoyable as possible. There's a lot of hard work in starting up an organization, and we absolutely understand that. Now you've got those additional extra support at your hands at a lower cost, as Joseph kind of talked around about, those additional administrative costs, those additional people costs. This is about giving you scale and giving you scale at hand as quickly as you possibly can. Now, hopefully this video starts. I'm just going to go into a video of give you a sense of exactly what AI can bring to organizations.
It was one of the last places settled in our country. We had a flooding event this summer, massive flood problems, and we really struggled with driving messaging out to our entire community on where to go, how to get assistance.
Their key pain point was they've got lots of services that they offer. Their community is diverse.
We have one middle school with 62 languages and dialects. About 24% of our population, they don't speak English at home. It's not their primary language. how do you bridge that communication gap and build relations with those communities?
And so what they were trying to do is remove the friction in people accessing services and accessing information.
And that's what really drove us toward looking to solutions and drive engagement with our residents. And Dell really showed up for us. It was easy for me when I reached out to them and said, hey, I have this crazy vision for generative AI.
That was an incredibly brave thing to do. It's a very new space.
Dell brings that full stack to us, brings the relationships, brings the visibility into where this is going, and often is adding to our roadmap things that we hadn't thought about yet, because they're seeing things that we just haven't seen yet.
And what we did is we actually took them through some of the other options, for example, using digital human with a large language model instead of just a chatbot, and how that could actually really accelerate people's consumption of services.
Hello, I'm Emma. I'm the City of Amarillo's first digital human built on generative AI.
That was transformative for me. Now there's one place to get that information that will not only give you answers in your own language, but take you to the support you need.
This is going to be a huge shift for all of the constituents.
Claro, para nuevos clientes, necesitarán llenar una solicitud.
Our end goal is to make sure every time a resident interfaces with the city, they see, hear, and interface with someone that looks and feels like them. We are not afraid of the future. We're embracing this wholeheartedly.
What I love about that story more than anything else is that the simplicity of actually what they're achieving. Now, I know that it's a councillor, I know that it's in the US, but actually that digital assistant, Emma, is just doing a phenomenal job. And what she's doing is just absolutely incredible. We stood that solution up in just a few weeks. But when you think about that power, what it can bring to the organisation, what the resource that can free up to then go on and actually make the services of that constituency even better, it's just incredible at a very, very low cost. When you look at some of the problems that they're having, and you will have, as you try and do trade with other countries, you will be building, your literature in one language, but yet you need to transform that into other languages, which comes at cost. Emma can do that literally within the blink of an eye. And making sure that we kind of give that service back, it's one of those incredible stories. When you look at the educational aspect of it, again, no different from what we have in the UK, but 62 languages, and being able to engage with those constituencies every single day on a multiple language level, just gives that communication feel so much quicker, so much faster than ever before. And a truly kind of interesting story. Now, if I'll be honest, every Tuesday night, I probably would be asking Emma what colour of bin I'm putting out the next day. But I mean, that's the kind of cost saving that we have to go and take. And as you look at your organisations, those questions that you bring in that come to you consistently, repetitively, that's where an Emma or a virtual assistant can really, really make the difference in freeing up your time to go and investing in other aspects of your business. Now, when I say we're innovating at pace, I mean like the market is innovating at a pace that we haven't seen before in any way, shape or form. As I said earlier, small, medium businesses to large businesses, they're really investing in some level of AI. Some is off the shelf type applications to much more bespoke applications. But in one way or another, we are being affected by AI every single day. And from a Dell perspective, I would say that we're investing and we're engaging, but it's not just in the business side. We're seeing it in healthcare, we're seeing it in education. I'm going to go slightly off tangent at the moment because I've seen a story where we're engaging with a physiotherapy department within one of the NHS trusts. And they've got roughly, give or take, they have 1,000 referrals per week. Just to put that into perspective, 1,000 referrals per week. That's a lot of referrals, but they can only see 100 patients per week in their physio department. What they've done is they've basically stood up an example of Emma, where it's a virtual physiotherapist, where they can actually recommend those little exercises. What that's doing, again, it's just freeing up more time to go and spend. So you look at some of those examples, it's absolutely fantastic. From a Dell perspective, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. When AI and generative AI in the last 24 months has came out, we were like magpie syndrome. We've just seen something shiny, and every single department within Dell Technologies was going, oh, well, we need to try this, and then we need to try that. And suddenly, at one point, we had about 800 proof of concepts on the go globally. That's just not workable in a financial sense. And what we had to do is we reined that in. So what we looked at was we put AI into 4 key pillars: sales, marketing, manufacturing, and development. And that's where we decided to put that investment in. And I'll kind of give a little bit of an example of where we are seeing the return of investment. So if we look at just the development department as an example, we've now got AI applications that are now helping support our development of the code that we drive at this moment in time. So we've got standalone AI, I would say employees now more than anything else. So you've probably heard the Jensen comment, which is IT is now the new HR department. That's exactly what we're seeing within Dell Technologies. So we've now got an AI development team that's now driving and running our development, our code at a faster rate that they ever have done, which in turn obviously saves more in productivity, but also increases the product solutions that we have at this moment in time, which then gives back to the customers and ultimately give that better service and that better solution. From a sales perspective, we've implemented some really, really basic, and again, this is some really basic solutions. Globally, we've ran out Teams Premium as a really kind of simple view of internally, every single meeting has to be run during Teams Premium. Has anyone used Teams Premium before? Yep, so a few. This is all around about, one-to-ones, meetings, the time that we take to take notes, next actions, and then we move on. We lose focus in some instances. What Teams Premium has been able to do is to save that time so that we spend more time with our people. Our team members can be developed at a higher level, and then that gets passed on to our customers overall. We've also implemented Power BI, which is another, obviously, product that's off the shelf, and we've implemented Copilot into there. So if you're looking at data insights from a sales and marketing perspective, the amount of data that's at your fingertips is incredible. But what Copilot is able to do is engage and engage with Copilot to be able to develop more insights that then you can take back to the market so that you can change. I talked about that GPS modeling. That's exactly what Power BI along with Copilot offers you. We've also included our own internal solution. So we've created an AI solution called Customer 360, which, as it says on the tin, it gives a 360 view of our customers that we've never been able to have before, from our support function, from our marketing function, from our real-time sales function, and bringing those insights. But it also looks externally. What's happening with the customer at this moment? Is there any external engagements that's taking place that's going to be affecting our customers, and how will that transcribe into a solution or a technical requirement? And how do we engage with the customer early to help support them in the right way? So when you look at some of these tools and processes that we've started to create, it gives us a really good sense of what's happening from a customer perspective to make the teams more productive. We've also created our own in-house sales chat. So again, if you know Dell Technologies, you'll know that the breadth and depth of our solution set is pretty vast. And I will be honest, it takes a lot of time and effort to keep up because we change and we go with the market really quickly. So we're having our own internal sales chat function, able to get the information correct first time, then to feed back to the customer. We've seen our cost of dissats go down dramatically, because what we're able to do is catch those early issues early on with giving the wrong information or the wrong product set for the wrong user case. Most of that is now gone away straight off the bat, so we're able to put the information in and get the right information out. Absolutely incredible kind of solutions that we're now starting to see. Now, this is hopefully where AI will do me a service here. So I put into, from a Dell perspective, we've been kind of going to the market and we're asking customers, bring AI to your data, not data to your AI. So I asked Copilot just to put a little bit of an analogy together for me so that would hopefully make a little bit more sense. And you can tell me whether it's went down or not, but hopefully it goes well. So the analogy that Copilot came up with was, imagine that the chef is the data, AI, and the ingredients are your data. What a chef wants to do is get all of the ingredients, the data, on site, and he'll put the data into preparation, and what he'll do is create something that's fresh and hopefully inspiring food, and it'll be the best service that the customers can actually have. What you don't really want to be doing is going out to an individual place and moving and chopping up the ingredients as you go along at each place. And then what that's basically going to do is give you kind of high levels of latency. It's going to reduce the actual service to the customers overall. And more importantly, this is your IP. So as you're scaling out your organisation, you're scaling out your IP. What you want to ensure is that you've got data sovereignty in terms of keeping your data as close to your heart as possible and secure. So that, again, from a large language model, it's your language model and you can't access it elsewhere. What you don't want to be doing is giving that IP. And equally, it's got to be scalable and efficient. What you can't be doing is scattering around in different places. It's just not going to be as scalable as you would expect. Again, AI, being a chef, I don't know. We'll work on it, but we'll definitely work on it. Look, I've got one more example just to kind of walk through. And again,
AI is ready to work
keeps
for
it simple.
you with digital assistants powered by Dell AI Factory with NVIDIA.
Blue would be complimentary.
Maybe go brighter.
How about this?
I love it.
Personalizing shopping experiences for customers.
Do you cook a lot?
I do.
Then you'll want more space.
Good call.
And analyzing sales to keep your inventory in stock. So you always have what you need to keep your business moving forward.
If anyone's doing any home improvements and they have to go to a DIY store, you will know that it's the biggest game of hide and seek in the world at times. So having someone being able to answer the questions that customers actually require at any moment in time, and not just questions around about paint, but actually assisting them in a certain way. Those are the types of solutions, again, that makes it really, really simple and easy for customers to identify with. And again, these are fairly basic solutions that can stand up relatively easily, but give the value back to the end user overall. Now, again, just to kind of talk over some of the learnings, the one thing that's kind of key is that AI is still fairly new. There's lots of really good free tools out there that can help customers be more productive, more engaging, more creative. But equally, there is a lot of investment that has to go into some of the premium products that are out there. Our view and the view that we've had is just make sure before you even get to the technical aspect, before you even start thinking about the solutioning aspect, that you're looking at it from a return of investment view. Is this going to give you a return of investment? Is this going to give you an increase of productivity? Is this going to help your customer overall? If the answer's no, then probably don't do it at this moment in time. There has to be value add in what you're trying to achieve. And ultimately, you need to ignite, but that has to be a streamlined priority. So ensure that the priority of your business is where you spend your time in the initial piece. And again, it has to be top-down decision-making. You've got to do it from a business level all the way down. You know, everyone is probably looking at ways that they want to be more productive and actually give themselves more time back, but you have to do it for the good of the overall business. As I said earlier on, this is just about avoiding shiny object syndrome. You want to kind of make sure that you're looking at the solutions that's going to help support you and your business overall. And there's a lot of information out there at this moment in time. There's a lot of organisations that are in the market. You know, from a Dell Technologies perspective, we have our own Dell for Startup team who are there specifically to give startup and scale-ups more advice, more engagement, show reference architecture, reference objectives, so to speak, and actually work them through in a way that you can understand. And so we've got accelerator workshops from a Dell Technologies perspective, but equally there is many of Dell Technologies partners out there that are open and willing to help customers really understand exactly where they are and as is, and then a to-be state in terms of how they adopt AI. And again, in a governed and an ethical way, it can really work and it can really make a massive difference to your overall organisation. On that note, look, I really just want to thank everyone for their time today. And again, from a Dell Technologies perspective, we are really kind of keen to partner with a lot of our scale and startup organisations to help take you to that next generation of AI. So thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. Thank you.
you. Thank you very much, Brian. Why don't you come and take a seat, and we'll do a little bit of Q&A before we get ready to welcome up the rest of our panellists. If you could join me here. Sorry, Brian. Please don't go so far away.
Sorry, my apologies.
Very frightening journalist. Yeah, you've got to sit at the opposite end of the stage. So I've got a few questions, having watched your presentation. So thank you for that. It was super interesting stuff. And we had a discussion here on the stage yesterday about AI. And there's obviously lots of routes we could go down. We could talk about scary AI that you read about in newspapers, not like the Times, but other disreputable newspapers. So we'll come on to some of that later and what Dell's doing around the safety, because obviously it's up to the big players to get involved, right, and help develop those kind of safety guardrails. But first of all, I'd like to delve into your everyday experience of working with SMEs around the country. Can you give us some really granular examples of small businesses, perhaps like the small businesses that the people in this audience run, where they are implementing AI in what might seem like a really small way, but it's delivering kind of tangible results, particularly with reference to what you said about productivity?
Yeah, okay. I mean, from how people are using it, everyone is on a journey, and there's some people who are maybe, again, there's a lot of unknowns. Utilising Copilot just on a device is a good place to start and actually start to build up a little bit of confidence of what the power of AI can give you back. We've got some SMEs, particularly in the UK, because the UK, I would say, is a real stronghold in terms of AI startups. So these are kind of ground-up application startups. From a UK perspective, we are seeing that as a major hub at this moment in time. The UK, the US are definitely in that power. But I think one of the questions was what should they be thinking about to actually support? It's future-proofing. A lot of, particularly in SMEs, a lot of the, I would say the consumption of AI is going to be at the edge. It's going to be at the device level. So those are the things that to think about over the next couple of years. I know Microsoft may have been here yesterday, but there is a big thing that's happening this year, which is Windows 11 is now the new de facto. Windows 10 goes end of support. But then equally at the same time that, there is another mega trend which is taking place, which is AI PCs. So from that perspective, what customers really need to be thinking about is not about the purchases and the technology that they're buying for the next 12 months. It's more what they can invest in for the next 5-6 years that will hopefully give them a return of investment just now, rather than investing twice or 3 times over the next few years.
And so we had a question yesterday, actually, about the kind of nervousness around AI. And again, some of that will be driven by the headlines. And you've given us a bit of a flavour, but can you give us some more details in terms of what small business owners should be thinking about if they're feeling a bit nervous? Is it just about having a play with it, having a play with ChatGPT or Copilot?
I mean, I would take the nervousness out the way. And again, I'll go back to what Joseph said earlier on. Being a small business owner is time consuming. I mean, my brother owns a small business in Scotland. Very rarely see him. He might like that actually, but very rarely see him. And when I look at the amount of work that goes in and look at what he's trying to invest in, AI should be an enabler to give you that time back. That's the way that I look at it, and also give your business the best possible chance of scaling.
And I just wondered, from your perspective, again, we were talking earlier about the kind of general economic climate, and of course that affects SMEs, arguably more so than the big companies. What are you hearing? What's the mood music amongst SMEs in the country?
I think things are just generally, costs are going up, people costs are going up. So again, when we kind of get a sense of how and why people should start to really kind of think about where technology lies at the heart of what they do. And again, I'll kind of reiterate what I said earlier on. It's that productivity bend. If you can increase your productivity bend without having to hire more people to do certain aspects of your job or different aspects of your company, then that's going to help you scale and reinvest in other areas. But there definitely is a little bit of tightness out there at this moment in time.
And thinking about that previous panel that we just had, of course, the theme of that was all about customer experience. Presumably there's quite, and we talked about it on the panel, but there's a real kind of role for AI, isn't there, in kind of elevating the customer experience? How do you see that?
You know, 1,000,000%. I think, like, from a Dell perspective, the engagement that we're having with our customers, the reach that we now have with our customers is just, and from our perspective, we've got our own Chief AI Officer, a gentleman called John Rose, who's got a fantastic YouTube channel, who's walking everyone through what Dell's story looks like. And from at the very heart of everything that we're doing, the customer is right in the middle. How does it impact the customer? Is it giving them a better experience? Is it giving them lower cost products? Is it giving them a better support function? Everything we channel has to be centred around about what that customer experience looks like.
And so how does that filter through into the small business community where you haven't got the, you can't employ John to come and show you how to do it?
No. I mean, again, holistically, when you're looking at the SMEs that we've got in the market right now, the general kind of ask is to make sure that you're making that right decision for your business. What applications are you actually using? How does that impact your overall kind of go-to-market? How do you bring that back to a customer-centric focus without labouring out too much cost? Again, like every decision has to have a return of investment. Every decision has to have a return of investment, and there is no point of really doing AI unless it's really got a narrative that can actually support you and your business overall.
And I did threaten that we would come back to this point around kind of safety and the guardrails that need to be in place, again, because of some of those headlines. And admittedly, that tends to be around kind of frontier AI, right, rather than the stuff that we're necessarily talking about. But surely, as an industry leader, a name that we all know, Dell has to be at the forefront of that.
So, I mean, from a policy perspective, each government's going to have to be really at the forefront of the decisions that they make. And we're absolutely kind of helping support in that narrative. But from a standoff perspective, we don't have any obviously guidance in terms of what we can do. But the large language models that the SMEs are using, where we really want to support is making sure that data sovereignty, where your data really comes into its own, is really supported, protected, and used in the right possible way. But from a solution perspective, that's really where we kind of come into our own.
And that's a really good point around data. And again, it's something that came up yesterday. It's how can we play with this stuff? How can we use it in our small companies without risking the data of our customers?
Yep, and as I said earlier on, it really is about ensuring you think about where that data, what large language models you're adopting. Is it on-premise? If it's on-premise, then you can control that data. As soon as you kind of start looking into a multi-cloud, which isn't a bad thing because you might want some data here and some data there, but what you really need to think about is that data sovereignty. What data do you want access to? What data do you want the large language models to have access to? And then making sure that you bring them in together. But it really comes down to your critical application, your critical data, and maybe your not so critical data. But again, it's having that mindset of where do you spend the most time to really make sure that you're securing your business for the long term, particularly on the IP front.
And this is a slight change of tack, so bear with me, Brian. But when I've interviewed, kind of leaders of big tech companies and AI kind of scale-ups in this space, often what they're trying to do is create real kind of lifelike human avatars, right? There's a few of them around. Victor Ripperbelli, what he's doing is absolutely fascinating. But there's a fine line between avatars and deepfakes, right, which again has been something that's been written about in the media. What do people really want from AI realism? From AI, is it realism or is it something that's quite clearly not human? Do you think?
Yeah, no. Again, it touches on that ethical view, and I think that when we see policy coming down, there has to be an acknowledgement of what's real and what's not real. Nothing is going to replace human engagement, and I genuinely don't believe that when we look at AI considerably, that's what it's there to do. This is an enabler to make sure that we kind of help support. But I do think that there is really good organisations out there, like McAfee, for example, is doing a really good job of engaging and making sure that they kind of start to see, when you're talking to someone, is it acknowledging that that's a person or is it AI, so that straight off the bat, because there's going to be some bad characters out there, and there's no way of stopping bad characters within the industry. But what we need to do as a technology is come together to make sure that those bad characters are easily identified and easily supported to make sure that we protect our organisations as much as possible.
You're right, and there should definitely be more kind of regulatory framework coming down the line. Just one quick thing I noticed in the video you showed earlier. It said we want, you know, people kind of talking to us that look and sound like us. I thought that was really interesting because surely sometimes the goal is to hear and see people who don't look like you to kind of encourage diversity of thought, for example.
Yeah, I think the comment was really much more around about access more than anything else. That particular solution, you know, small businesses are going to trade with other small businesses in other countries, and there has been, and there always has been, a barrier to how you can communicate. So being able to break that communication barrier down with a virtual assistant such as maybe Emma, that opens up the doors to companies that maybe just, it would never have clicked before. It would have worked, but it maybe just didn't get off the ground because that communication error, that language barrier, however you want to pronounce it, that removes that completely. And I think it genuinely opens up the power of trade like we have never seen before.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Thank you so much, Brian.